Today we're going to learn how to read the symbols on a weather map. A blue H is a high pressure area. It's also called a high pressure system. The area is much more dense. It's cooler and drier than the surrounding air. A low pressure area is also called a low pressure system. It's symbolized with a red L. The area that is less dense, so it's wetter and warmer than the surrounding air. A cold front has blue triangles, and the blue triangles are pointing the direction that the cold front is moving in. A cold front can bring cold temperatures, heavy rains, and high wind speeds. A warm front has half circles that are red, and the red circles are pointing in the direction that the warm front is moving. It can first bring some rain. It can be followed by clear skies and warmer temperatures. A stationary front is where a cold front and a warm front meet. The red warm front was going to the upper right, and the blue cold front is moving to the lower left. You can see that they met in the middle, and the arrows and the half circles are still pointing in the directions that the fronts were moving initially. Stationary fronts bring long rainy periods that stay in one spot. An occluded front is where a cold front, which is moving faster than a warm front, then it catches up with the warm front. The warm air is trapped between two cold fronts, and the warm, moist air is forced upwards to create clouds and precipitation. It's purple because it shows that it's like the red and the blue mixed. And then you have the symbols that are half circles and triangles alternating. Wind speed and direction are also on the weather map. The bigger the difference in pressure, the faster the wind blows. Well, you can tell how big the difference is in pressure by how far apart the lines are. On the left side and the right side, the lines are about the same distance apart, and so those winds are going to be about the same speed. The wind around high pressure areas always blow in a clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere, and the winds around low pressure areas flow in the opposite direction, or counterclockwise, also in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, like in Australia, they go opposite of that. You can read wind maps too. There are little flags on these little lines on the United States map on the left. And if it's just a dot, it means it's calm. There's no wind at all. If the wind is up to 5 knots, which is about 5 miles an hour, then it'll have a line coming off of it to show the direction of the wind, and then a little half of a flag. That little barb that's coming off of it is just short. That means 5 knots. And if it's a longer barb, then that's 10 knots. So in the next one, you see that there's a long one and a short one. That's 10 plus 5, so that's 15 knots. If you have 2 long ones, that's 20 knots. If you get up to 50 knots, then you symbolize that with a triangle flag. And if you have something like the one on the bottom, that's going to be a triangle. And a full 10 knots plus 5 knots. So that's going to be 50 plus 10 plus 5, 65 knots. The line from the dot shows the direction the wind is coming from. The barb coming from the long line is 10 knots. A half of a barb is 5 knots. And a triangle flag is 50 knots. We'll practice with this one. We have a line coming off of a dot, and it's going to the northeast. So that means the wind is coming from the northeast, and there are 2 long lines, so that's 20 plus the 5, so 25 knots. And then the second one shows the line going to the east, straight off to the right, and it's just a half of a barb, so that's just 5 knots. The air pressure, so the H and the L that mean high and low air pressure, that's talking about the weight of the air in the atmosphere above you. So if you're at high elevation, you have lower air pressure because there's less of the atmosphere pushing down on you. And that means if you're at a lower elevation, you experience higher air pressure because more of the atmosphere is pushing down on you. There's more weight. Warmer air molecules also move faster, and they hit other objects with more force. That's higher pressure. So warmer the air, the higher the air pressure. And colder air molecules move slower. They hit other objects with less force, so they cause lower pressure. Colder air, lower air pressure. The higher pressure areas are usually cooler and drier. High pressure systems usually bring sunny weather, and low pressure areas are wetter and warmer than the surrounding air. Low pressure systems usually bring cloudy and rainy weather.